I think there do emerge key themes that are going to become apparent over the course of today. They have to do with thinking through what it means to change corporate taxes in a global economy, even for the United States. And the starting point has to be that emphasis on the global economy, because one cannot wish away the existence of competitors around the world. One cannot wish away the legitimate aspirations of people in poor and rich countries alike to make a living themselves, and one cannot wish away the important benefits the U.S. has, nor should one wish away the important benefits the U.S. has, including the U.S. corporate sector, from its integration with the world economy. If you step back a minute, no matter how many natural experiments public finance economists run, it's very hard to see that the U.S. corporate sector is somehow holding back the U.S. economy, or the U.S. economy is desperately in need of change. What the interesting question also, though, is efficiency of tax collection. So let's go back to this idea of if we change the tax code to repatriate everything. So we now have an estimate that $2.6 trillion of U.S. multinational company profits are held overseas. Last time we did a tax holiday repatriation was 2004. There were estimated to be 804 billion profits then, and about 362 billion were repatriated. So if we net this out, the total accumulation of profits abroad by our friends in the multinational sector over the last 12 years is a flow of 1.4 trillion, which is real money. Some of that actually is for legitimate reason, but let's go to the extreme and assume that it's all just profit shifting. That's about $40 billion a year of lost tax revenue, which again is real money, but let's get serious. The total tax revenue for the U.S. government averages $2.6 trillion a year. So we're talking about 1/65th of the U.S. tax revenue is potentially at stake if you max out what you get from getting these profits to be booked at home. Worth doing? Yes. Worth sacrificing huge costs for? No. First thing is, it's very uneven in what gets covered. There are huge things like tourism, like education, like hospital services, like internet services that would not be covered under this. So there's a huge share of revenue foregone. It's also very distortionary, of course, because what you're doing, therefore, is taxing only certain sectors and not others. Which, again, every tax does that to some degree, but biasing it very concentratedly on particular sectors is not good tax reform even for public finance economists, let alone for macro people. Jason Furman, along with Catherine Russ and Jay Shambaugh, published a recent piece, one of the last things they did at CEA, looking at the impact of tariffs on low-income Americans versus high-income Americans. And as Bill Klein and many in this building have argued through the years, because low-income Americans consume such a large part of their income, and they buy the products that are at the low end, things like clothes, cheap electronics, but also cars, they suffer the most from tariffs. And Catherine Russ just recently posted online a summary of using that data to look at the impact of a border adjustment tax on income groups. There are various assumptions. You can go online and look at it, but essentially this pattern is real. If you do a border adjustment tax, it is going to hit the weakest, poorest Americans very hard. Obviously, a VAT is adopted in many other countries and is regressive in every country it's adopted. In every other advanced economy, the amount of redistribution and the amount of protection for workers is far higher. So there's the United States. The bottom axis tells left to right how much of your VAT goes to general government revenues and GDP. The up to down, the vertical axis, again, thanks Colomb, is how much you're changing the Gini coefficient. In other words, how much you're redistributing after tax. And the point is, the U.S. is nowhere on VAT and very low on redistribution. Canada, Switzerland, we're not quite Brazil, good for us. But as you see, if you leave the U.S. out of it, essentially as you move up the VAT ranks, you have more redistribution because, of course, if you put a VAT on with no redistribution, no free healthcare, no free education, people suffer. The actual revenues you're going to get by doing this DBCFT are very limited. They're real, but they're limited. The costs of getting revenues through this means are manifold. Congress has better alternatives to raise revenues to offset this. Please use those instead. Thank you.